The situation in Samarkand had completely deteriorated. Tartar forces were gathering around the city, and Alauddin Muhammad Khwarazm Shah knew that staying there any longer was nothing but suicide. He left Samarkand not as a king, but like a plundered traveler. No one stopped him on the way, because the Tartar armies were at that moment engaged on other fronts. He had no fixed destination ahead of him. All that was said was, "I will raise a great army." But this was mostly a way of consoling himself. Meanwhile, in the southern parts of the empire, Prince Jalal al-Din was trying to gather forces. He wanted to confront the Tartars, but the problem was that public trust had collapsed. People said, "A ruler who abandons his greatest city without a fight? Who would die for him?" At that time, Khwarazm Shah was under severe mental pressure. He was making decisions not with reason, but with fear. Consumed by this fear, he consulted the court astrologers about whether resistance would be wise. The astrologers replied, "The time is against you. War will bring nothing but loss." Hearing this, Khwarazm Shah broke. The courage to resist no longer remained in his heart. He moved beyond terms and crossed the Amu River, halting where the danger seemed somewhat reduced. During this time, the governor of Bukhara arrived, fleeing. He described the destruction of Bukhara and also delivered the news that after Otrar, Samarkand too had fallen to the Tartars. Upon hearing this, Khwarazm Shah realized that Transoxiana was now lost. For the last time, he gathered his military commanders to find a way forward. Experienced nobles advised, prepare defenses in Iran and Khorasan, use the rivers as barriers to halt the enemy's advance. It was a sensible opinion, but some were gripped by fear. They said it would be better to move toward India. There, refuge might be found and time gained. In the end, Khwarazm Shah chose the path with the least resistance. He departed in haste, so urgently that he did not stop anywhere until reaching Balkh. This journey was not toward victory. It was a journey toward the end. Alauddin Muhammad Khwarazm Shah had appointed his youngest son, Prince Rukn al-Din, as governor of the mountainous regions of northern Iran and Iraq. These territories were still untouched by the Tatar onslaught, and within them lingered the last breath of the empire. When Prince Rukn al-Din received news of his father's wandering and flight, he became deeply distressed. He immediately dispatched the Sultan's trusted minister, Imad al-Mulk Sauji, to the royal court, hoping he could persuade the Sultan to come to Iraq with dignity and honor. At that time, Khwarazm Shah was encamped at Balkh. Imad al-Mulk presented himself, offered valuable gifts, and spoke plainly. To move toward India now is not wisdom. Come to Iraq. There is peace there, strength there, and the opportunity to raise a powerful army. This advice struck Khwarazm Shah's heart at once. The truth was, he had never been fully convinced about the journey to India. Hearing of this new path, he decided immediately to change direction. This decision was not made to fight the enemy. It was made only to save his own life. It was at this moment that father and son stood face to face. Prince Jalal al-Din could not remain silent. Staying within the bounds of respect, yet speaking with profound pain, he said, "Your Majesty, I humbly submit that whatever forces can be gathered should be assembled here. Retreat is the way of the weak. Great kings confront the enemy, they do not flee from him. If we continue to scatter, even now, history will brand us as cowards, and the people will remember us as rulers who abandoned them. If you have resolved to go to Iraq, then go, but entrust the command of the army to me. I will stop the enemy at the banks of the river Sehun and will not allow him to advance. These words were not merely advice, they were the honor of a son, the resolve of a commander, and the declaration of a Muslim ruler. Prince Jalal al-Din continued, "If victory is granted, it will be by the grace of Allah, and if my life is taken, at least people will never say that we abandoned our subjects in their hour of calamity." But Khwarazm Shah's face revealed everything. The defeat he had carried in his heart since Samarkand now dominated his decisions. He viewed his son's words as an emotional speech, not as reality. Prince Jalal al-Din tried again and again to reason with him, but each time the answer was the same. When calamity descends, it cannot be stopped. To struggle while caught in the snare only hastens death. Hearing this, Prince Jalal al-Din fell silent. Grief, anger, and helplessness he buried deep within his heart. Respect for his father and the delicacy of the situation restrained him from rebellion. He remained bowed in obedience, even though his heart was burning. Khwarazm Shah, too, wished to keep him by his side. And so, on this long, directionless journey, spanning thousands of miles, father and son traveled together. Yet their thoughts, their courage, and their destinies stood worlds apart. Acting on the counsel of Imad al-Mulk, Alauddin Muhammad Khwarazm Shah turned westward and set out toward the mountainous regions of northern Iran. As he departed, he did instruct the remaining fortress commanders of the realm to offer resistance, but these orders remained mere words. Behind them stood no royal resolve. He distributed responsibilities across different regions. Amir Omar was assigned Bamyan, Ikhtiyar al-Din Ali to Peshawar, Husam al-Din Hussein to Ghor, and Shams al-Din Jurjani as guardian of Herat. Outwardly, this appeared to be administration. In reality, it was tantamount to relinquishing his own empire. When a king himself loses courage, his subordinates do not stand like walls in battle. Meanwhile, the Khwarezmian forces, after successive defeats, had lost their strength and spirit. Yet Genghis Khan was not satisfied. He feared that Khwarazm Shah might regroup his army somewhere in Iran or Afghanistan. But in those very days, he encountered a man who erased even this concern. That man was Badr al-Din Hamid, the same individual whom Khwarazm Shah had once appointed governor of Tabaristan. Sometime earlier, for reasons of his own, Khwarazm Shah had ordered the execution of Badr al-Din's father and uncle. From that day on, the man had burned in the fire of revenge. As soon as Genghis Khan seized Transoxiana, Badr al-Din Hamid quietly approached him and laid his loyalty at his feet. In private, he said to Genghis Khan, "Great Khan, to me there is no enemy greater than Khwarazm Shah. He is the killer of my father and my uncle. If vengeance could be taken by giving my life, I would do even that. Do not think that because he has scattered his armies, the danger has passed. Even now, at his command, forces can be gathered from every direction." Genghis Khan listened carefully. Then Badr al-Din revealed the true point of attack. He explained that long-standing tensions already existed between Khwarazm Shah and his mother, Terkan Khatun's tribal faction. If suspicion and mistrust between them were intensified, the army would collapse on its own. Genghis Khan found this idea pleasing. The two deliberated at length. At last, a dangerous plan was agreed upon. Badr al-Din proposed that a forged letter be prepared, one in which the nobles of Terkan Khatun's tribe would assure Genghis Khan of their support against Khwarazm Shah. And on the reverse of the same letter, a written reply of acceptance from Genghis Khan himself would be added. Genghis Khan approved the plan at once. The forged letter was prepared. It read, "We, the Turkic tribes, have thus far supported Khwarazm Shah out of respect for his mother. But now he has turned rebellious, has grown suspicious even of his own mother, and ordered us to abandon her cause. Therefore, we await your arrival and shall remain obedient to your commands." This letter was not a sword, but its strike was deadlier than steel. This war was no longer being fought only on the battlefield, but within hearts and in the fragile fabric of trust. According to the agreed plan, a man appeared before Khwarazm Shah carrying the forged letter. Outwardly, he posed as a well-wisher, but in truth, he was a spy sent by Genghis Khan. He told the Shah that certain nobles of the empire were conspiring against him and that he had stolen their secret correspondence. Khwarazm Shah believed his words. When he read the forged letter, his already exhausted nerves seemed to shatter completely. He had never imagined that at such a critical moment, his own maternal relatives would join hands with the enemy. At that very instant, suspicion took root in his heart. He began inwardly to regard the Turkic nobles close to Turkan Khatun as allies of Genghis Khan. Distrust drove in the final nail. The reality, however, was the opposite. The Kipchak Turkic chiefs had continued to support Khwarazm Shah only because the realm was in danger and because the disagreements between the Shah and Turkan Khatun had, for the time being, been set aside. These very nobles stood in the front ranks of the army, shedding their blood. But continuous defeats, flawed decisions, and the Shah's retreat had already broken their morale. On top of this, the Shah now began to view them as traitors. When they learned that on the basis of this forged letter they were being accused of rebellion, their patience overflowed. They made a decision. The Sultan must be eliminated. On a dark night, a detachment of Kipchak Turks silently approached Khwarazm Shah's tent. They surrounded it and unleashed a rain of arrows. The tent was pierced through and through. Believing that the Sultan had been killed, they withdrew. But fate had another turn in store. Khwarazm Shah had already been warned of the conspiracy. Under the cover of darkness, he had changed his tent. When morning came and the Turkic chiefs discovered that Khwarazm Shah was alive, they could not remain in the camp for even a moment. All of them immediately set out toward Genghis Khan. After that single night, only 20,000 troops remained with Khwarazm Shah. He was now completely alone. No trust remained, no faith in anyone. More than the enemy's sword, it was the betrayal of his own people that had broken him. Badr al-Din Hamid's conspiracy achieved what Genghis Khan's generals had failed to accomplish in months. Khwarazmian power had collapsed from within. After this incident, Turkan Khatun too became disheartened with Khwarazm Shah. Genghis Khan seized the moment and sought to further inflame the division. He sent a traitorous Khwarazmian noble, Danishmand Hajib, to Turkan Khatun with the message, "I have learned that your son has turned rebellious. I have set out against him. Be at ease. I have no concern with the cities under your administration. Khwarazm and Khorasan up to the river Amu I recognize as your rule." Genghis Khan's purpose was clear. As long as Khwarazm Shah remained, Turkan Khatun was to remain silent. But Turkan Khatun had already witnessed Tatar bloodshed. She could not place her trust in Genghis Khan, and so she too abandoned the capital and quietly departed in search of a place of safety. Here, the enemy was not only the Tatars. The true defeat had already come from within. The army had scattered, relationships had shattered, and trust had been buried. Alauddin Muhammad Khwarazm Shah was no longer trying to save an empire. He was merely counting his remaining breaths. Yet history's verdict was still to be delivered. In the next part, the moment will arrive when the ruler of a great empire, consumed by loneliness, fear, and flight, will reach the final boundary of his life. And with that ending, a new story will be born. The story of Prince Jalal al-Din Khwarazm Shah, where the father's downfall will end and the son's resistance will begin.